So I often get people reaching out to me and asking me how I get my photos and my portraits looking as sharp as I do, and that they're struggling to get the same kind of clarity in their photos. So if you feel the same, well, in today's video, I'm going to cover some settings, some tips and tricks that I've learned over the years that are going to really help you get some super sharp photos, including one little trick that all of the pros are using on social media that really never seems to get talked about. Alright, so let's quickly talk about all things shutter and shutter speed, because I find that this is easily one of the biggest reasons that people's photos end up looking soft. Shutter speed controls how long your sensor is exposed to light, and a huge mistake that I see is people shooting with way too low of a shutter speed for the situation. So for example, a shutter like 1/10 lets in a lot more light, but it also captures every little bit of movement in the shot, either from your subject or from you slightly moving the camera when you take the shot. Whereas a fast shutter like 1/4000 will freeze motion in the image and eliminate any blur. So how do you pick the right shutter speed? Well, my basic rule of thumb is pretty simple. If I'm shooting something static, so nothing is moving in the frame, I will try to at least match my shutter speed to my focal length. So this is a 35mm prime, for example. So with this lens, I will not shoot any slower than 1/35, and I'll try and shoot much faster than that if I can, but that's the lowest that I'll go. And with modern cameras that have things like IBIS and lens IS, if you're using good technique, that is generally going to be a fast enough shutter speed for a static scene. But for portraits and weddings, or whenever I'm photographing people, that rule goes out the window, and I don't ever shoot below 1/200, because even tiny movements from your subject can soften the image, and I find that 1/200 is just enough to avoid that. For action, sports and wildlife, then you need an even faster shutter speed to freeze the motion. So I try to at least shoot at 1/1000, but sometimes that's not even enough for really fast moving action. So generally at the event, I will try a shutter speed, I'll look at the back of the camera, see if I can see any motion blur in the shot, and see if I need an even faster shutter speed. Now, something I think you really need to be aware of on these Canon cameras, or any camera really, is shutter shock. And this really caught me out when I originally moved over from the original R6 and upgraded to an R5. I expected to get much sharper results, obviously going from 20 megapixel to 45 megapixel. But my first portrait shoot on the R5, my images looked way softer than the R6. Even though my settings were dialed in, my focus was solid, I was just really disappointed with the results when I got back and looked in Lightroom. And what was actually happening was shutter shock. So that's where a tiny vibration from the mechanical shutter opening or closing introduces a little bit of blur in the image, and it can be really subtle, but at certain shutter speeds, this can really blur fine detail. And personally, I found that these Canon mirrorless cameras are actually pretty sensitive to it. And higher megapixel cameras are way more prone to this, and that's what was happening on my R5. And that's because the pixels are smaller and packed a lot more densely onto that same sensor size. So they pick up tiny vibrations a lot more easy than, say, a lower megapixel camera, where those kind of small movements may not be picked up at all. And high-res APS-C cameras can be even worse, like the Canon R7, for example, because you're cramming all of those pixels into an even smaller sensor, so a smaller space. And that's why when I use the R7, again, I really struggled with shutter shock on that camera as well. So how did I fix it? First, I simply used faster shutter speeds when using these Canon cameras, especially on my higher megapixel bodies like the R5 and the R7. I'd often double what I'd normally feel comfortable with. So for portraits, I tried to shoot at, say, at least 1/400 instead of 1/200. And that slightly faster shutter speed would generally be enough to mitigate any of the effects of shutter shock. But to be honest, the quickest fix was simply just taking the mechanical shutter out of the equation when using those slower, more susceptible shutter speeds. And I would use electronic first curtain shutter instead. Electronic first curtain shutter solves the issue of shutter shock by starting the exposure electronically. So there's no actual physical movement when the exposure begins. Only the second curtain closes mechanically to end the exposure, and this happens after the critical moment where vibration would affect the sharpness of your image. So electronic first curtain shutter, EFCS, is the sweet spot because it gives you clean, crisp shots by removing the most vibration-prone part of the mechanical shutter process. So generally now, I try to use electronic first curtain shutter when I'm shooting below 1/1000 of a shutter speed. Now above that, I'll switch back to fully mechanical, because beyond 1/1000, shutter shock really isn't going to be that much of an issue at these kind of faster speeds. And using EFCS at really high shutter speeds can sometimes introduce a little bit of weirdness to out of focus backgrounds, which of course we never want in things like portraits. So if you're struggling with a slight softness to your photos, try a slightly faster shutter speed, and also give electronic first curtain shutter a try, because it might just solve the issue for you like it did for me. Guys, before we continue, this video is sponsored by Squarespace, and as a photographer, I think having a website that showcases your work is a must, and it just doesn't get any easier than Squarespace because there's no coding or design skills needed. Most of the changes you're going to want to make are as simple as drag and drop, and Squarespace even now has amazing AI tools like Design Intelligence or Blueprint AI, which can all help you create a personalized website in just a few easy steps. And of course, the fully customizable photo galleries are just perfect for showing off your portfolio to potential clients. Squarespace also has fantastic e-commerce tools that make setting up an online store a breeze, meaning you can start selling in no time and handle many different payment types seamlessly thanks to Squarespace payments. So if you're ready to get started, well, head on over to squarespace.com/jamesreader and use code jamesreader for 10% off your first domain or website. Okay, now let's quickly talk focus settings, because I don't actually do anything too fancy here, but there are a couple of things that's definitely worth bearing in mind. Whenever I'm photographing people or anything that moves, I'm always in continuous autofocus. So that's servo AF on Canon. And that way, the camera is continually adjusting and seeking focus as the subject in the frame moves. I pair that with subject detection, so for portraits, I set it to people because I find that that's generally more reliable than just leaving it in auto. But choose whatever matches your subject, so whether that's people, animal, or vehicles. But if you're traveling or shooting mixed subjects, auto is generally totally fine. And you can just tap on the back of the screen to tell the camera exactly who or what you want it to prioritize. And for portraits, I'm almost always using whole area autofocus with eye detection turned on. So that way the camera is scanning the entire frame for a human eye, so I don't have to worry about manually placing a focus point on the face or eye of a subject. And this allows me to compose freely, and the camera just reliably locks onto the eye for me. I also use back button focus, so that is basically instead of using the half press of the shutter to focus, I will use the AF on button on the back of the camera. So basically when I hold this button down, the camera is continuously searching for focus. When I release it, it will stop. And I prefer this setup over using the half press of the shutter for a lot of reasons, but one is definitely stability, because I find that hard pressing the shutter can just introduce that little bit of shake, like right before you take the shot. And I personally find that I'm steadier and more stable when using back button autofocus. But for landscapes or anything that's on a tripod, I'll just switch over to one shot autofocus instead of continuous. And I usually use a small autofocus area like 1 AF. And this is more precise and reliable for static scenes because the camera focuses once, locks that focus, and then won't adjust again until you refocus. So it's ideal for landscapes, for architecture or product photography, or anything that isn't moving. And when I'm in one shot AF, I always adjust this setting. I make sure to set the one shot AF release priority to focus priority. And that basically tells the camera not to take the shot until it has actually locked on and achieved focus. If it's set to release priority, the camera will fire even if the image is out of focus, which is the last thing you want when you're shooting detailed static scenes. And one absolute must when shooting on a tripod is using a 2-second timer, because even the tiny movement, like I said, from pressing the shutter can introduce shake. And because landscape shots are often taken at slower shutter speeds, that tiny little vibration can easily soften a very detailed image. So a 2-second timer completely removes that risk. Now, light has a massive impact on how sharp your photos are going to look, because even with the best camera and lens, soft, flat, dull light can make an image feel a bit mushy. On the other hand, good light, especially light with direction and contrast, instantly boosts perceived sharpness in an image. When you've got nice shaping on the face or a bit of contrast in the scene, edges pop, textures show up more, and the whole image just feels cleaner and more detailed. Take a look at this image, for example. It looks razor sharp and really contrast. It pops and it was really easy to edit. because it was taken at sunset with really nice directional light, lighting our subject and the scene. Now check out this shot, which was the same place the next day at sunrise with totally flat overcast light. And look at the huge difference that makes to how sharp the image seems. So that lack of contrast makes this image look flat, even though this was shot on the same 45 megapixel camera and super sharp prime lens. Also for portraits on overcast days, it can be really hard to get a catch light in the eyes as well, and that makes a big difference in how sharp a portrait can feel, because a catch light instantly draws attention to the eyes, and because we're naturally drawn there first, it gives the impression of a sharper, more focused image. ISO plays into this too, because the higher you push it, the more detail do you lose. And even worse is underexposing your subject. Even at ISO 100, if your subject is really dark and you lift it later, you're basically selectively adding noise and softening the most important part of the shot. So keep your ISO as low as you can, expose your subject properly, maybe by using a bit of fill if you need to. And remember that things like catch lights in the eye or a little bit more contrast in the face through side lighting your subject can really make a portrait look noticeably sharper and more three-dimensional. Now let's talk about technique, and one of the easiest ways to get sharper handheld shots, especially at slower shutter speeds, is to use the EVF. Because when your camera is up to your eye like this, you've got 3 points of contact. You've got your right hand, your left hand, and the camera pressed against your face. And that just gives you way more stability than holding the camera out in front of you and using the rear speed. So at shutter speeds like 1/60 or 1/30, that extra stability can be the difference between a slightly soft shot and a perfectly sharp one. Now I already know you're gonna say that you've seen me using the LCD all the time in my videos, and that's because it's a bit of a bad habit that I picked up, mainly from recording POV videos for YouTube. But you should definitely try to get into the habit of using the EVF when you can, when you're shooting handheld, because 3 points of contact basically means more stability, and it essentially turns you into your body into a stabilizing system. And you're basically locking the camera against your body, which dramatically reduces micro vibrations and increases your chances of getting a sharp photo. Now let's talk quickly about sharpening in post, because sharpness is really about the contrast between sharp and soft areas. So that's actually why primes often seem sharper than zooms, because when you shoot wide open at a fast aperture, you naturally get a sharp subject against a soft background. And that contrast is what makes the image feel really crisp. And in post, I like to exaggerate that effect a little bit. So instead of just sharpening the whole image, I usually selectively apply sharpening to just my subject. So in Lightroom, this is easy. You can do this by just adjusting this masking slider under the sharpening panel. So hold Option for Mac or Alt on PC and raise this masking slider until you see that the sharpening is only affecting the subject and not the background. And that will keep your subject sharp without adding unwanted noise or texture to that soft background. I'll also often mask the background separately and lower the exposure slightly. I might reduce clarity, texture, and sharpness, all just to increase that contrast between the subject and the background. And all of these thoughtful, selective edits just make an image seem more three-dimensional, more interesting, and more sharp. Have you ever seen a photo on Instagram and thought to yourself, how does this shot just look so sharp, yet none of mine look anywhere near as good on Instagram? Well, a big secret a lot of people are using is actually sharpening on your phone. So when you upload a photo to Instagram, it's compressed pretty heavily, and that compression softens your image. But there's actually a built-in sharpening slider inside Instagram that does an incredible job of bringing all of that detail back. And I've been using it for years, and people always comment on how sharp my Instagram photos look. And honestly, that has always been the reason. Pretty much every big Instagram creator uses this trick and nobody talks about it. And that's why their photos look so fantastically sharp on Instagram. Now I avoid pretty much all of the other kind of editing tools that's built into the Instagram app, but that is one that is incredibly useful. Now it does just apply uniformly across the whole photo, unfortunately, but for things like landscape shots and portraits, it just adds so much detail back into the photo on Instagram. So that's it. That is my quick guide to getting sharper photos. So hopefully There were a few tips in there that'll help you get the sharp results that you're looking for. But if I've missed anything, or if you've got any of your own tricks for getting sharper shots, drop them in the comments below so that we can all learn from each other and keep improving as photographers. But that's it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you all next time.